Time is now 7:02 p.m. Call this city council regular meeting to order. Announce that a quorum is present. Everyone, please stand up for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Father Daniel, will you lead us in our invocation?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let us pray. Merciful and gracious God, in your word you have given us a vision of that holy city to which the nations of the world bring their glory. Behold and visit, we pray, the cities of the earth, especially the city of Manor and the communities around it. We thank you for this meeting of the City Council, that it may make decisions that seek to provide the faithful and effective stewardship of our common life. Send down upon all who hold office in this city the spirit of wisdom and mercy and justice, that with steadfast purpose they may faithfully serve in their offices to promote the well-being of all people. In the upcoming election, that all the voters may discern what is best for the common good, and that all of us renew the ties of mutual regard which form our civic life. Empower us to eliminate poverty, prejudice, and oppression, that peace may prevail with righteousness and justice with order, and that men, women, and children from different cultures and with different talents may find with one another the fulfillment of their humanity. This we ask in your most holy name. Amen. States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May be seated. Okay, we have a couple of proclamations this evening. Proclamation. First one is declaring the week of November 6th through November 10th, 2023 as Municipal Court Week. And it reads, whereas the Municipal Court of Manor, a time-honored and vital part of local government, has existed since 1872, and whereas more people, citizens, non-citizens alike, come in personal contact with municipal courts than all other Texas courts combined, and whereas public impression of the entire Texas judicial system is largely dependent upon the public's experience in the municipal court. And whereas municipal judges and court support personnel have pledged to be ever mindful of their neutrality and impartiality, rendering equal service to all and conform to standards set by the canons of judicial conduct. And whereas municipal courts play a significant role in preserving the quality of life in Texas communities through the adjudication of traffic offenses, ensuring a high level of traffic safety for our citizens. And whereas the municipal courts serve as the local justice center for the enforcement of local ordinances and fine only state offenses that protect the peace and dignity of our community. Whereas the municipal judges and clerks continue to strive to improve administration of justice through participation in judicial education programs, seminars, workshops, and annual meetings of their state and local professional organizations. And whereas it is most important that we recognize the accomplishments of the 916 Texas municipal courts and salute their critical role in preserving public safety, protecting the quality of life in Texas communities, and deterring future criminal behavior. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor of the City of Manor, on behalf of the Manor City Council, do hereby recognize the week of November 6th through November 10th, 2023 as Municipal Court Week, and further extend appreciation to all Manor municipal judge and court support personnel for their vital services they perform and their exemplary dedication to our community. I call upon all residents of Manor to join with the City Council to recognize the vital service they perform and the exemplary dedication to communities they represent. Proclaim this first day, November 2023, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor of the City of Manor. Let's see, we have some of our judges and court personnel here tonight. Yes, come on up. And I will take a picture with him. Come on down.
Oh, good. All the way up. Oh, okay.
Get on this side. You know it's y'all. Yes. She's living her best life. Okay. Ready? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
Now my turn. 1, 2, 3. Take a beat. All right.
Okay. We have one more proclamation. All right. Declaring Friday, November 3rd, 2023 as Texas Arbor Day. Proclamation. Whereas Texas observed Arbor Day in 1889 under the leadership of the Texas Forestry Association, and whereas across Texas, from towering pines to majestic oaks to scrubby mosquitoes, mesquites. There are mosquitoes out there. The many trees of Texas are beautiful and prominent features of our unique and breathtaking landscape. And whereas as Texans, we value our trees and the benefits they provide us each and every day, benefits like clean air, clean water, improving our health, and even saving us money on energy bills. And whereas we encourage people in our community to plant trees and celebrate them on the first Friday of November on Texas Arbor Day. And whereas this holiday for trees is an important opportunity to teach fundamental lessons about stewardship of our natural resources and caring for our environment. It is an opportunity to learn what each of us can do to keep our community trees healthy and vibrant. It is a time we can pause to appreciate the trees in our lives. And whereas together, we can create a brighter and more beautiful future for the next generation. They, in turn, can affirm the duty of protecting our natural resources by being responsible stewards of this great land. And whereas the city of Maynard will host a Texas Arbor Day event at Timmerman Park on November 18, 2023, from 9 o'clock a.m. to 10 o'clock a.m., the community is invited to bring their families to this fun event for all ages. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor of the City of Maynard, Texas, and on behalf of the Maynard City Council, do hereby proclaim Friday, November 3rd, 2023 as Texas Arbor Day. In the city of Maynard, urge all citizens to support efforts to care for our trees and woodlands, and I urge all citizens to plant trees to gladden in the hearts and promote the well-being of present and future generations. Proclaiming this first day of November 2023, Dr. Christopher Harvey, Mayor, City of Maynard. And I believe, Matt, you're going to come up and introduce our guests.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We are honored today to have Allison Bayless with Texas A&M Forestry here to give you.
Hi there. Good evening. My name is Allison Bayless. I'm the Regional Urban Ecologist with Texas A&M Forest Service. We are the State Forest Service. We are a state agency. We are also one of the lead agencies in the state for response to wildfires. In my role, I work with communities across Central Texas to help build sustainable urban and community forestry programs. And I'm so pleased to be here with you all, recognizing Mainer's second year as a Tree City USA, and the Arbor Day proclamation and celebration is a part of that. It's an annual recognition program from the Arbor Day Foundation. Texas A&M Forest Service works in partnership with the Arbor Day Foundation to deliver this program across Texas. To be recognized, communities must meet 4 standards each year. These include maintaining a tree board or department, having a community tree ordinance, spending at least $2 per capita on urban forestry, and the fun one, celebrating Arbor Day each year. Ultimately, these standards lay the foundation from which communities can maintain and grow their tree cover. Trees provide essential services. They improve air quality, combat urban heat, improve human health and well-being, and even increase property values. These are only a few of the many essential services trees provide to help sustain communities. Mainer is one of 94 communities in Texas to be recognized as a Tree City USA and joins more than 3,500 other recognized communities across the country. This is the second year that Mainer has received recognition, and I want to thank Lance Zeppelin, the council, Mayor Harvey, for y'all's efforts to make Mainer a more sustainable community. So on behalf of the Arbor Day Foundation and Texas A&M Forest Service, congratulations to the city of Mainer for this year's Tree City USA recognition.
Thank you. Let's go ahead and y'all want to come up and get a photo. All gentlemen, ladies, Park Tree Service, definitely. And anyone else that wants to come down? Parks? No?
What's he got? Oh. That's nice.
You go first.
I need y'all to speak just a tad more. Just a little bit. Okay. Perfect. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3.
My turn. Okay. Oh, wait. Sorry. Okay, here we go. All right. Thank you.
All right. Congratulations to you all again. Thank you for all you all's hard work. Public comments. Non-agenda item public comments on the white card, and then agenda items public comments on a yellow card. Comments will be taken from the audience on non-agenda and agenda items combined for a length of time not to exceed 5 minutes total per person on all items, except for public hearings. Comments on public hearing items must be made when the item comes before the council and not to exceed 2 minutes per person. No action or discussion may be taken by city council during public comments on non-agenda items. To address the city council, please complete the white or yellow card and present it to the city secretary or designee prior to the meeting. We have one comment for tonight, and Mr. Robert. sir, you have 5 minutes. Maybe.
Does that include me saying my name, or? I'm just kidding. Yeah, my name's Robert Bataille. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If I would invite people to go to the Facebook page, Manor Community Coalition, to hear things without the city spin or without the newspaper's partial rendering. Just briefly on the bond issues, I would urge people to vote no on those. I think they are hopelessly bloated slush funds. There's nothing specific in there. We really don't need to spend $170 million and spread things all over the town. If you go in the newspaper, I'm not sure why you guys printed that in such tiny type. Nobody can read that whatsoever. We're spending more money on a parking garage than an art museum. They've got $877,000 for furniture, fixture, and equipment in a parking garage. I think that's the direction we want to go, but I really don't think that this is the way to go, and I don't think this council and the current city staff are capable of managing this. They can't put a dang thing in the parks. They can't fix our sidewalks. They can't do much of nothing. So I think we ought to walk before we run. Now, I was talking to the police about trying to stop this closed meeting of the park committee today, and we didn't quite find the right legislation, but I found it now. It's an advisory committee, but the point is, this is from the Texas Municipal League in terms of defining a governmental body. If that what that is a rulemaking or quasi-judicial power committee. If they are one showing the power to exercise judgment and discretion, that's a governmental body. If that committee has the power to hear and determine or to ascertain facts and decide, that's a governmental body. So I hope sincerely that this will be the last secret, closed advisory committee meeting that we ever have in Manor, Texas. Okay, now, speaking on a couple of these agenda items, compensation. I, as you know, have been wanting you guys to get compensation, or not necessarily you, but all council members. But the thing that you're missing is the work part of it. I don't want to just give yourselves compensation unless there is an equal amount of work required. I think this is at least a 25-hour-a-week job. In other words, you have to give up your day jobs if you want to be on the committee or in the city council. City council should meet during the day. We shouldn't meet at night. That's the way Austin City Council does it. That's the way Travis County Commissioners do it. I certainly don't think you should ask for pay for last month. What did you do that was any more work last month than you did the month before and the month before? Now, the item 7 is the classic Scott Dunlap deal where he puts so much stuff in there that there's no way any single human can come here and read this. This is 24 pages of fee changes. And what's very hard to determine is what the actual impact of these changes are. I think this should be a 3 to 4 hour town hall workshop thing with a little give and take. And we asked Scott Dunlap, he's sitting right here, what is the impact of these changes? He shows a little stuff over here that's going up, and then over here, the definitions are going to cause everything to go down. I think it's going to end up costing us money. For instance, it's already done. Some of his changes have already cost us money. Monarch Ranchos is $220,000. They don't have any park land there. Okra is a shrimpy little trail, 8 feet wide. Just because you make it contiguous, that does not make it a park. Shadow Glen is going to be very impacted because some of the changes in here, I have not been able to really digest all of them. So many lengths of trail counts as so much percentage of parkland. I don't think we really quite understand the difference still between the two words park land and the one word parkland. And I think these changes are really screwing up that whole dynamic. I think Mr. Dunlap has
Sir.
been, pardon me?
Thank you.
Is that 5 minutes?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
All right. Moving right along with our agenda, we have consent agenda items. All of the following items on the consent agenda items. Consent agenda considered to be self-explanatory by council and will be enacted on motion. There will be no separate discussion on these items unless requested by the mayor or a council member, in which event the item will be removed from consent agenda and considered separately. Number one, consideration, discussion, and possible action to approve city council minutes from October 18, 2023, city council workshop, October 18, 2023, city council regular meeting. Number two, consideration, discussion, possible action on a wastewater utility easement for Timberman Commercial Investments, LP. Number three, consideration, discussion, possible action on the amendment to the Chickenango Marketing Solutions, Inc. Professional Service Agreement, extending the previous agreement to December 15, 2023. All right. Is there questions or motion on the floor?
I have a question on number 3,
Yes, ma'am.
if that could be
You want to
pulled.
pull that out,
Yes.
or you want to have questions first? You want to just pull it?
Yeah, we can pull it.
Okay. Any other questions or requests? Now we need a motion for a consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. We approve the consent agenda items 1 and 2.
We have a motion on the floor for consent agenda items 1 and 2 by Councilwoman Mesmer. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Consent agenda item number 3, consideration, discussion, possible action on an amendment to Chickenango Marketing Solutions, Inc. Professional Service Agreement, extending the previous agreement to December 15, 2023. Mr. Jones.
Yes. Did you have a question?
Yes. Kind of a question and a statement. I guess during the time that we've had Chickenango as being the branding company that we chose, and I guess for the results of what we had, and then having to extend it because I guess from the last time when we had our workshop and they said that we had to scratch it and start over and things like that, I was kind of unimpressed with it and just wondering why to extend, and I guess maybe what would be different, because it seemed like from the beginning it required a lot more legwork on our part, and I didn't see much from their end in order for me to feel comfortable saying that we're not doing all the work, and then they just put it in something. Like even this past time, you did a lot of the work that we liked more than what.
Yeah, typically those branding initiatives take a lot of an outsider looking at what we want to put together because it is our city. And, in this particular case, we probably, I haven't seen one that hasn't taken at least 3 tries. We've been down the road probably twice now with different marketing initiatives looking at different opportunities, but I think it's going to take at least one more round. They're working on stuff. I talked to AJ today, and they're working on stuff right now. We have a theme that we're looking at, and they're working up some concepts around that theme now, so we're getting closer. And I think when they come back to you again, I think they'll have some other ideas that y'all will like more. The initial rounds take some, they're tough getting through the initial rounds. We have some color palettes that some of y'all have sent me some information back on, and if the rest of you will also send me that information back, I've sent the ones that you have graded to them to include. And so if we get those color palettes back, I'm talking about the logos now, but they'll have additional information to work with. I think the main reason we need this extension is because they've been working on the bond election so much. We've had them, working more hours than we expected on the bond PR. So they would have probably been a lot closer to finished by now had they not been working on the bond issue. So that's really the real reason for the extension. So yeah, we ask for the more time because of that.
Okay. So do you think that would there be a difference between now and then? You mentioned that there probably takes a few more runs. So would we have those runs within that December 15th?
I think they'll probably come back one more time and then get you a final after that one more. May do another session. We could probably do it virtually if we needed to, but I think they'll do one more session in front of you and then come back and give you some final selections to choose from. I think that's all it'll take. We don't want to drag it out too long, that's for sure. But again, we want to make sure, I mean, since it's a long-term issue and it's going to be pasted all over everything we have, our logos to our signage to, we want to put monument signs up, have it on our website, everything that we have. We want it to be a good look and a good feel and everybody to be behind it. So we want to make sure it's done right too. So, I don't mind taking the time to get it right either.
Definitely.
My question is, in the process, is there a space for community input?
For what input?
For community input.
Yeah, I think we haven't built in. We've had council had the opportunity to pick additional community members. One each, I guess, is what they came up with for stakeholder input. But we haven't had a survey go out, but we could certainly do that once we come up with some selections. We can pare it down to 2 or 3
Well,
as far as branding and logo.
well, that part too, but more so, I wanted to make sure we highlight that part, that there was folks that were selected from the community, and have they participated adequately to
Other communities,
no our community members.
we haven't sent it out to the general community yet, but we could certainly do a survey.
No, the ones that we selected, the random people. They
Mm.
haven't.
No, because we haven't gotten a final list yet.
Okay.
We haven't gotten down to, what I envisioned was getting down to like pick 3,
Mhm.
and we haven't gotten down to those 3 yet. Because once we get down to I'd say a selection list or a final top 3, and they're working with an idea list right now. And I think when they come down to that top 3, then we can send out a survey and see what feedback we get back from the public.
Yeah. So council, it's going to be important for us to make sure we give our feedback when those emails come timely, and then
Mhm.
when we do that next workshop, to make sure we all are there so we can get that piece done so it can move through the rest of the process.
Yeah, please, because they can only work with what they get back, and if they don't get back anything, they don't have anything to work with. So that's very important.
Other questions, comments, concerns?
It just sounds like what you're saying. It's going to take, it feels to me like longer than December 15th.
We can assess that when we get to it, but we're going to shoot for December 15th. That's the goal.
If the date gets pushed back further than December 15th, would that change the cost, or will it remain?
No, it's a fixed cost contract. So
Okay.
unless they spend more hours on it, it shouldn't change the price.
Okay.
If it takes us extra time to get there and it's the same number of hours they're working on it, shouldn't change anything.
Okay.
Unless we hold them up and it takes more time for them to
Mhm.
do their job, then it shouldn't change anything.
Questions about that, council? You go with that, Councilman Weir? With the ability to go.
Go ahead. I shot out about 15 ideas to AJ today myself, so she shot a few of them down, but we're still working on ideas back and forth.
Yes, I'm willing to go with that. It just sounds like there's a lot that still has to be done. It just feels a little,
Yeah.
still a little bit un
They're working on it internally, and like I say, she and I have been communicating back and forth, and she's working with her team there, and they're communicating back and forth. So there's a lot behind the scenes that you don't see too.
Other questions? Okay, I'll take a motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we close, that we approve the consent agenda for item number 3.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second? Approve item number 3. Yeah. Do we have a motion? We have a motion for by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along. Regular agenda item. Number 4, consideration, discussion, possible action to approve an ordinance adopting establishing compensation for mayor and city council and structured policy and procedural process. Ms. Vasquez.
Mayor and council members, good evening. On September 20th, 2023, the City Council took action to approve compensation for the City Council. Staff has worked diligently with the City Attorney's Office and provided them with a tiered level compensatory structure. The tiered structure is based on guidelines for active attendance and participation for committee assignments, state and local regional appointments approved by the City Council. The compensation payment levels will be tied to approved plans with a requirement that reports to City Council and will be approved to the City Council during a regularly scheduled meeting. Attached, you will see the ordinance, which also contains exhibits that will show you the compensation plan itself and just kind of like the different structured portions that we were looking at. HR is working with the city secretary in regards to coming up with a format for council and mayor.
Okay. I want to highlight a few things for the public. One, this is all rooted upon a couple of previous meetings and conversations years ago. City Council had a committee that was formed, and the committee brought to council what we were doing charter amendments, and the committee came and brought back compensation an compensation amount for council, and it went to the voters, and I think the voters voted, and it was like, I don't know, 50 to 49 or something like that in that election that voted against the compensation plan there. The next time we took it before the voters voted to actually take remove the burden of voter elections out of the charter amendment. So the people voted to remove the language, giving council the authority to determine what compensation should or shouldn't be. Then we got to this space where during that same time period, we were talking about accountability and council members policing themselves. And we created a process and a policy, if you will, for us to ensure that council members were showing up to council meetings and attending and doing work. And so there's an expectation that council members attend. There's a 70% of, is that correct? 70%? Mm-hmm. 70% participation? Yes. At least 70% of all council meetings, workshops, special call meetings listed in what's now called Tier 1 70% of those meetings have to be attended, and that was just stemming from previous years where council member attendance was a challenge in the past, and so you have to attend and be present for any of this to work. If you're not meeting the attendance expectations, then that's foundational for any opportunity for conversation. There's a minimum level for meeting the basic requirements of 70% attendance and attending all regular council meetings and special call meetings, workshops that we have, whether it be before council meetings or weekends, and so forth. That all has an attendance requirement, and that monthly amount is less than $1,000 for either the mayor or the council member, and that's the basic requirements. Tier 2 begins to add those advisory committees that do not have power to make a decision. We want to make sure that part is clear. That was mentioned earlier, so that our advisory committees do not have power to make decisions. Only council makes decisions in regards to the work that the city is doing. And so, council members, we created practices back in, I think, 2019, where council members were serving on these committees, and 2 members per committee. And this tier 2, we have 2 council members on the committee, 1 chairing. Council members are expected to serve on 2 committees and chair at least 1, host at least 6 meetings per year, and provide reports to city council quarterly, and make timely budget requests for associated committees as necessary. Tier 3 is getting into even a deeper level of community involvement with hosting community meetings, engaging the HOAs, attending county and state representative or leadership opportunities, and that tier 3 area. So, and these are all built upon. So for tier 3, as you're adding more responsibilities, you're doing more for the community, and that's kind of the expectation. The more you do, the more opportunity you have in that stipend space, compensation space. And then last is attending Texas Municipal League conferences and training and policy getting those continuing education units. So we want to ensure that council members are learning and growing to be the best that they can be for the city of Manor, as well as serving on state or regional boards, specific in transportation, economic development, health, or what have you. And so all of this is predicated upon, again, active attendance and participation, doing the work that the community needs us to be doing to move our city forward, and being respectful of the council members' time to support family and honoring the work that's been done, mornings, lunch times, after hours, weekends, summer days, and so forth. I want to thank city staff for all your all's hard work and crunching the numbers, the budget, and ensuring the legality of it all, and council members for all the discussions and comments and input into the process. What you have there on item 4, that is the plan, but also spaces where you can communicate the things that you want to be a part of and that you want to do, and select the type of tier level involvement you're going to do. I think for the public, what it means is your council persons and your mayor are being very open and transparent about the level of involvement they're going to have for you, and you can know exactly who's kind of doing what or able to do what, and it brings, like I said, a level of accountability and responsibility that we haven't had before, outside of the individual's person's drive and passion to do the work. So, questions, comments, council members?
Was there any public comments about this from the public?
I saw social media stuff. I'm not aware of anything was submitted. None was submitted to the city secretary for tonight. Most of the public comments I've seen have been favorable. Others were more specific towards the bond. And it's favorable in that regard.
Mayor and council, I did want to just talk about a little bit about what Tracy and I are going to be working on. The form is we're kind of going to make it's a template, and council is going to be responsible on submitting that monthly. So pretty much monthly reports, just like staff does. On there, we're going to try to keep it simple. You're going to enter your dates on what you attended. We are going to require certifications of attendance, whether it's a certificate or a signature or even an email. So pretty much are the backup that's going to support what you've done through the month. And it's pretty much we're still working on it. So just wanted for the public to know exactly what you guys are going to be required to submit.
Just a comment to thank staff and everybody who worked on this and came up with a plan that's going to be effective, helpful, transparent, and hold us all accountable. I think that's very important, and I appreciate the work you guys put into this.
Other questions, comments?
I have one, but I hope it's not I hope it's not going to be taken the wrong way. But I do just want to say it just to throw it out there. I feel like I've been a council member for quite some time now, and been also active in the community and things like that. But I think, especially within the last few administrations, there's been a progress that's required a lot more, not face to face in the community, more so as it is, do you have the research in the background, and are you doing the legwork under the water with the duck metaphor, and so from that, with that being the case, and I guess you can probably explain it more too when it comes to like the tiers. If you're a person who is doing all the basic tier 1, but then you skip 2 because that's not within your bandwidth because you have a full-time job in addition, but you are in on tier 3 or 4 where the CUs are. And so you're getting that training because that training is required in order for you to do the work that you're doing here on council. How does that work?
Well, the design is you to do 3 and 4, you have to do 1 and 2. And I would say right now, especially for all the council members that have been here for a while, 1 and 2 is what most of everybody's been doing. Unless you haven't been chair, but if most of us have already been or on at least 2 committees, and it would just be the insurance of the reporting and the meetings, the number of meetings minimum per year, and the notes and reports that happen in council that will be added to tier 2. That's the only difference there. Otherwise, a lot of this are things we are already doing. Tier 3 might be new for some, and tier 4 would definitely be for at least for the first part of tier 4. That those small pieces of CEUs and stuff, that piece is already what we're doing. The other part might be new for others besides Mayor and Mayor Pro Tem serving on regional committees. And so that might be new for some people to serve on different committees. And it might be fit the schedule and it might not fit the schedule. But the key was to try to make sure that everything that was being listed were things that were going to be beneficial for the city. If I'm serving on the Austin Health Council, then it's benefiting the city because we're having key conversations about how to bring hospital resources to our city or to our region to close the gap on healthcare. So the goal is to ensure that all the work we're doing is being that we're pushing ourselves to as if possible to be in spaces that are going to be meaningful for the city now and for the city in the future. So it builds, and a lot of what we've already been doing is kind of listed in those tiers. And so for someone that has never been on council, tier 1 might be a lot. When I first got on council, there were some members where tier 1 was just too much. And that's what kind of sparked the conversation. If y'all remember that we're here, that sparked the conversation of policing ourselves and bringing an attendance policy, because for some just showing up was difficult. Tier 2 came about because we saw that the need for the city required more time and attention and more work, and we needed to sit down with staff and kind of generate ideas and kind of have conversations, take input we were hearing from the community in those advisory committees. So then staff will bring those solutions to council, those ideas to council, and council will vote on those things from there. And so that work started then, again, to also increase participation and responsibility on council members, that we wasn't just out there running a popularity contest, if you will, to be selected for the seat and then not doing anything meaningful for the city, not contributing, not answering the tough questions, not participating, not pushing the envelope. So that's how those pieces got there. So I would say tier 1 and 2 is what pretty much all of us are already doing here on council. Tier 3 and all of the components of tier 3 and all the components of tier 4 might be new to some people.
Okay. I guess I'm still in the part, and I'm not just advocating for myself because I'm telling everybody that's listening, but because I also have a full-time job and it's not always going to be available to be able to participate in some of the things that I would like to participate in. But it also doesn't mean I'm not doing the back work behind the scenes. So basically having that tier 1 level by itself is its own full-time job outside of it. If you, as some people have wanted us to know from the community, if you read the comprehensive plan, that wasn't a committee by itself to be in charge of being the subject matter expert of it. But if you were that person, if you were the person that reads our documents that come out at the end of the week, after that second week, in order for us to do our job, keeping up with that, not only having which is no less than sometimes 200 pages, and it's not always the same thing. So still doing that. And it's not like we are just getting the shortest executive summary. So we can know there's still research required in that as well. That's not put into it. And I guess that tier 1 by itself, if someone could not do any more than that, but knowing that's what's required, and that's its own extra piece. And then on top of that, so you're asking for my 40 hours a week doing on council, just doing those simple things, keeping up with that, following the research, being very strategic in time management, because you only get 2 full days to do it. And that's not including, asking for research and additional information. And then bringing it back to the council to make on council day to make a final decision that's going to impact the rest of the city. That's a lot to hold on somebody by itself to only get tier 1. But I'm only saying that to say as an advocate for tiers. If we're doing tiers to make the community feel good about paying, about where our money is coming from to get paid for what we're doing, then we're shortchanging ourselves, because we're doing way more than this. And enough to where you could be paid the full balance, because we're doing the full balance job and we already have things in place and other policies and ordinances in place to cover some of the things that we have, like the attendance policy. It's been in place. And so we know our expectation. Or if we step out of line as council in front of the community, we have ordinances in place in order to say, this is not what we should be doing. And we have the ruling of us as well as others that would also say, this is how we conduct ourselves. So I'm just saying, I can definitely be influenced on this, but I'm saying we're also, as you mentioned, we're all pretty much doing everything that we're doing right now. And so now the only part is whether or not you put the time in to go above that 40 hours that it takes to put in the extra, and then also document it and turn that back in on time so that we can be compensated for it, which could possibly, potentially on some months would be a little bit harder to do. And
Well-
then that ties our strings, our hands for nothing.
Yeah.
And then the city is like, oh, okay, well, at least we got what we got.
Well, I think that can be a conversation we have with staff in regards to the documentation piece. The plan that we submit and those processes, I think, are important for communicating, laying out what we can and can't do, and how we can do it. I think a couple of things. One, there is no, there's the expectations that are listed here that will cause for people that are going to run for city council to, I think be pretty serious about what they're going to do when they come up forward. So I think some of this is about current council, but it's really, for me, it's about future. And now the candidates that are there that apply in the future to want to lead the city will see the expectations and understand what the level of time and education required. Not necessarily school education, but how much you have to learn. And we've always talked about the onboarding process, and maybe these types of things would now lend itself for us to offer kind of a volunteer pre-council member situation where people can learn, or we can encourage people to attend things ahead of time so that they can shorten that learning curve from there. The government doesn't allow us to require council members to be experts in subject matter. And so I think this encourages people to do that before they decide to run for council or decide to run for mayor. You're right. I don't think that the amount of time it takes to dive into as a community member, to dive into understanding water and wastewater itself by itself, that amount of time it takes to understand that and get to a place of understanding those pieces is at least half the term. And that's just water and wastewater for himself if you have no prior knowledge to it. So I don't think we can ever truly compensate what that is or what that can be without talking about going to a full-time job situation. However, we are a city manager, council member, so we can talk about, I don't think we can ever have that full conversation about full-time pay at this stage, the size of our city, and at this type of situation where this is the first time we're talking about compensation. I think this is a mutually beneficial situation because it's not a whole lot of money, but it is something, and over time we can make the case for whatever the case needs to be over time. Some people may run and not have a job, and this is fine. All of us working, so it is difficult to maintain a full-time job and really a lot of full-time work, of hours. And I don't disagree with Mr. Robert, who talks about the amount of work that council members have taken on is like a full-time job, because it is. So I think this is a good start for the city, for city staff, for the city budget, and for the community, because of the work that we're doing now. And so I think it holds us to keeping doing that work, or you can just show up twice a month, and whatever, if that person chooses to do that. But this process now will let community members know the type of council member they elected. And so I think it doesn't really help us. It doesn't really value us, if you will. It's not, but I think this more so, it helps a little bit, but it really lends itself more to supporting the needs, the questions of the city, of the residents. So that's what I say it as. I think this is more of a process to ensure that residents feel like people are doing something for them than it is actually saying to council members, this is all the work you're doing, and here's, what you deserve for doing it. So I agree with you. May not necessarily reflect the full amount of hours you're putting in. I think it's a good start personally. I think it lends itself more to residents being happy that they can see what council members are doing just by, school districts have the A through F system. I see that might now have the tier 1 through tier 4 system, and you would know if, my council member, I voted for such and such, and that council person is a tier 4 council member. I'm glad I made that vote. Look how hard they're working for the city of Atlanta because they're tier 4. Doesn't mean tier 1 is not valuable because we know how much we meet. It just means that person is really out there. I know that don't help.
I think my only concern was the tier 4, trying to reach that something in that every month would.
I don't think that was listed as monthly. It talks about the continuing education hours, and that's over a year. And then a lot of the state board region meetings don't meet that often. Some of them do meet monthly, some of them once a month, some meet quarterly, some meet 2 or 3 times a year. So it depends on the committee and, like I said, the value. So the key is the next step is for council members to talk about what's going to be meaningful for the city, and for us to volunteer ourselves to be on those meaningful committees, to be in those meaningful places. So if you want tier 4, then that means you're going to create more time to be in more meaningful spaces for the city, to have those conversations, to be on those boards, to be on those committees, to advocate for the city. That's what it's about. If you don't have the time, you're not being penalized. You just don't have the time, and that's okay. Because we are all working full-time jobs. It doesn't mean anything less. It's just this time in my season or this particular calendar year, I don't have the time. The next calendar year, my schedule is free. I can do something more. This year is a tough year, so I might need to fall back and just, focus this year. And this year, my term needs to be more of a tier 1, tier 2 year, because I got a lot of stuff going on with my job or family or whatever, so I can't do as much. So it allows you to year by year to communicate what your planned level of involvement is, and go out and represent the city in that manner. Other questions, comments? It's our ordinance, it's our policies and procedures. So at some point in time, if we get it after a good amount of data, we can revisit this, come back, workshop it. I see you smiling. Go ahead. Okay. Anybody else? Okay. Ms. Vasquez, did you have any other comments?
I do not. Just need to know.
Okay. I think we would like to revisit that at some point in time, what that documentation process is going to be and look like with you all.
As far as the tiers in the report,
Yeah.
yes, we still have. Absolutely.
And then, yeah. Other than that, I'll take more questions or a motion on the floor.
Mayor and Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance number 724, setting the compensation for the mayor and members of the city council.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
We have a second by Mayor Pro Tem Lee Hill. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? No questions to the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 6-1. Number 5, consideration, discussion, possible action to reject all bids for Greg Maynard ground storage tank and pressurization facility improvements project funded under the fiscal year 2021 tax and revenue certificates of obligation.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. You should have in your packet the agenda item summary form. In working with city staff, we're making the recommendation that City Council reject bids for the Greg Maynard Road ground storage tank and pressurization facility improvements as part of a resiliency effort. We are working with Public Works staff on adding a second tank to the project. This would provide the ability for taking a single tank out of service and having a redundant second tank. Staff's working on financing. The objective is to rebid the job and open bids on the 14th with the second tank. And so we're requesting rejection of the first round of bids and we'll rebid the job on the 14th.
Do we have any questions?
Are you rejecting the current bids because they didn't meet your standard?
They met the requirements for the original project, which only had the single tank. And then working, like I said, with city staff on that, the decision was made to move ahead with the second tank. And so the decision was made to recommend rebidding the project.
Do those are those current, they eligible to come back in for the bid again?
Absolutely. We didn't disqualify any of them. We're just suggesting to reject all the bids.
Ultimately, you're asking us to, this is the official process, the council, the last set, so you can do another set with the changes.
Yeah, the way the instructions to bidders and general conditions of the standard agreement are that the city can reject any and all bids for any reason. So there's no liability associated with that.
Okay. Other questions, comments?
The one tank that will remain operational, it's dependable, reliable.
Well, so this is a new facility, and so we're going to build the new facility with 2 new tanks instead of 1.
Mayor, Council, we had talked about, I think some of this was already in motion before I came on board, and Matt Woodard, the Public Works Director, when we looked at building our system out, just wanted to make sure, like Frank had indicated, we were looking at 1 tank, 500,000 gallon or larger. And then we realized that once you have to do maintenance on that, at some point, look how much water you would take out of service. And so not knowing with the summers that we may have and the way the system's being built out, you definitely want to be in a position not to plan ahead. And the information we submitted to Congressman Cassar's office back in March netted us, a significant amount of money from his office that's in the infrastructure plan just because we were planning it. And I think in rebidding it also lets us know we could build what we need and have resources to do it with, not have to do it later. And that way, if we can get the price locked in now for the 2 tanks, I think it'll be sufficient for us to be able to submit when Congressman Cassar's office requested our information to get reimbursed. It's more like we have to pay first and then get reimbursed. And so that puts us in a position to receive funding back from his office based on the project that they selected out of, I think his district runs from Northeast Austin all the way down to San Antonio. and we were one of 14 projects that got selected. So that's a big, that was a big request for us to put in, but the project and the credit worthiness of it showed that it was a worthy project for us to consider. So that's why we want to make sure we do it right and not have to come back in 10 years or 15 years.
And typically in all of our designs, there's some things that TCEQ requirements require that you have redundancies, like with your largest single pump out of service and that sort of thing. And it's always a good idea, and we try and include as many redundancies as possible. But it's pretty large capital cost for the tank, so these alternative funds are going to be able to provide for that redundancy, which helps with system reliability.
Other questions? Take questions or a motion?
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we vote to reject all bids for the Greg Maynard groundwater storage tank and pressurization facility improvements project and have the project rebid on November 14th, 2023.
Have a motion on the floor by Councilman Moreno. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along to agenda item number 6. Consideration, discussion, and possible action on a resolution nominating a candidate for the Board of Directors of Travis County Appraisal District. And you all have that background information. We had Mrs. Elizabeth Montoya, who had been serving for the last term, so we need to select another person. And I believe I sent some names. Did anyone else find some names?
I received interest from.
I think I sent you 2.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mayor, Council. So just briefly on this item, the letter that was submitted by the Travis Center Appraisal District, just to be clear with the public, the list that was provided, it was their list, and this is actually all council, current mayors for each city. It's not your own nomination for yourself. So I wanted to point that out. Also, on my end, I only received one interest from Councilwoman Amezcua with Mr. Pice, P&Z board member. And I think Mr. Moore reached out. Did you reach out to him? I'm not sure. And he was interested.
Yeah, he expressed interest.
He's expressed interest.
As a nominee.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't get the ones I sent.
I didn't receive any others on my end.
Let's see. I think I sent 2.
And I've also received interest by Councilwoman Amezcua. She's also would be willing to serve if just as an option.
All right. I had, I think I sent a young man by the name of Jorge Flores. And my other inquiry was Felix as well. He reached out to me.
Felix.
Those were the 2 I sent, Jorge Flores and Felix Pice. So according to the sheet I have, where I have it says Cedar Mena, is that 2 seats or just 1?
Just one. I think that was a mistake on their part. It's are you talking about the list in the back?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was just, if you can see, it's just a duplicate copy, and that was on their end. We're not able to edit their forms. That's their form.
Okay.
So it ends in, I think it was November 7th. What are you talking about? I'm sorry. Tonight.
Yeah. Yeah, we have.
The deadline was actually yesterday, but I did speak to Ms. Myra, and she's extended it for us for tonight. So I will be submitting this to.
It says November 7th on the letter.
No, that's actually the ballot. So what happens is of nominations, we have to submit the resolution, and then they're going to work on the ballot. So
Halloween.
yes,
So we
and
have three
sorry.
names.
Yes, Mr. Felix Pais and Jorge
And Councilwoman.
and Councilwoman Mesqua.
Okay. And then whatever we recommend, we'll make sure that those individuals meet the qualifications. Or any other eligibility stuff.
The only restriction was they cannot be employed by the appraisal district.
Okay. All right. We have three names. So any motions? I have a letter from Mr. Flores if you all want me to read it or not. Would that help? I think you all know two of the people. Okay. So it says, hello, Mayor Dr. Harvey. First of all, sorry for the many losses you and your family have gone through recently. I hope you have had some time for self-care and reminiscing. I also thank you in advance for your consideration of me as a community member for the TCAD board. I believe in the value of community service, but most importantly, I believe in the value of Mena. My family, I moved here when I was 8 years old, and I graduated from Mena New Tech High School in 2014. I've been seeing this wonderful community grow and grow, new businesses, new roads, new faces, but the community values have remained the same. I still feel like everyone knows everybody here. The main people group is as wild as it's ever been, if not more. But that's what makes us great. We are not afraid to voice our opinions. And we always want to know. We always want to know. Always want to know and be a part of what's happening in our town. Along with the knowledge from living here for most of my life, I know I would like to serve the board with accurate service, careful planning, clear communication, and ambition to learn and to hustle. Thanks, Mayor Jorge Flores. All right. You gotta say somebody. Do you have anything that you need to add? No?
No, just when you read the motion, you just have to name the person and authorize the city manager to submit the nomination on behalf of the city.
I'd like to make a motion that we send Maria Amesqua.
You nominate.
We have a motion, a nomination on the floor by Councilwoman Weir. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Councilwoman Mesqua, are you accepting of the nomination?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions to the motion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. We need a staff recommendation. We need the actual motion now. Staff recommendation where you read the line and insert person. So I need a motion for that. Yeah.
Mayor Council, I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number 2023-33, nominating Maria Amisqua for the Board of Directors of the Travis County Central Appraisal District and authorize the city manager to submit a nomination ballot on behalf of the city.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Ryan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilwoman Weir. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right. Moving right along. Item number 7. Right, yeah. Consideration, discussion, possible action on ordinance amending Mainland Code of Ordinances, Appendix A, fee schedule, establishing building and development related fees, business related fees, special services by law enforcement staff, administrative and miscellaneous fees, animal control fees, utility service charges and fees, municipal court fees, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for penalties and providing for savings, severability, and open meetings and effective date clauses. Mr. Dunn.
Evening, Mayor and Council. So this is repealing and replacing our existing fee schedule in its entirety. It's largely being driven by the updates to the water and wastewater rates that you all approved, the 7% increase in those, but also for the development services fees. Those were updated based on the Reftalis financial analysis that they did. Reftalis also did the water and wastewater rates, but they also did development services fees. And then there's a new state law that development services fees have to be adopted at least every 10 years. So this sort of starts the clock on all of our fees. And so we have a decade before we have to do it again. But it sort of sets that time now for us to be in compliance with that state law. There wasn't, major changes. If you're looking at the red line one, you'll see a lot of red lines, but, the fees change, a couple dollars here and there. I think the highest one that modified, which came from the police, was the increase to the game room license. That went up to $1,000. We only have one game room right now, but most of the fees didn't shift too drastically. There were some new fees that were added. Another one in particular to be in compliance with state law was related to subdivision testing and inspection fees. Those used to be based off the cost of the public improvements. So it's 3% of the cost of the improvements. The state in this past legislative session said we can't base our fee off the cost of the infrastructure. So now it's based off the acreage, the linear feet of what's being installed, or the square yards. So it's a little more complicated for us to figure out, but it still essentially works out to 3%. So there's not a massive change one way or another in what the city would receive in revenue from that. It's just a different way to calculate it. If you have any questions on the fees, I'm happy to answer them. Oh, also, this was circulated through all the departments. So Public Works, they updated some of the park fees. They added a cost for effluent water and updated the fire hydrant water fees, and which were kind of separate from that Reftalis study because those aren't necessarily the public fees. But this did go through all of the city departments for if they had any fees to add or modify.
Questions, comments?
Do we have any say how much the fees are? Like it's a set because of all of our outside impression.
No, you have all the say of it. You can move them one way or another. I mean, the water, wastewater ones, maybe those are already previously approved, and so maybe not those. The parkland fees, those are approved by a separate ordinance, so those are just being incorporated here. But you can still change them and then go back and modify that other ordinance. But yes, all the fees are modified or can be modified.
Other questions or comments or concerns?
My thought was, how do our fees kind of compare with, I guess, other cities that have these building fees? are we asking too much, or are we not asking enough,
Mhm.
or are we just like kind of right on track?
Uh, from what I've seen, because when we were doing the Rift House study, we were pretty in line with other communities with the revised fees. Um, I could say in my 9.5 years here, our fees for the development services side haven't shifted dramatically at all. So if anything, we were much lower than a lot of surrounding communities. And again, the fees don't increase very substantially. Like a new home goes from 60 cents a square foot to 70 cents a square foot on the building permit. The inspections go from $60 to $75. A single trade permit. So if you needed to get your HVAC switched out, right now that's $97 or $107, and it goes to $138. So it's $31 more expensive. And that would be probably the most common, those single trade permits that like a resident might be getting for like a plumbing or HVAC or something like that. So those fees aren't, they're not paying hundreds of dollars more. It's just a little bit for the permit itself and inspection. And then our credit card fee is going from $2 to $3. So there's that extra dollar in there.
Thank you.
Other questions? Entertain a motion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve ordinance 725, amending Manor Code of Ordinance Appendix A fee schedule, establishing building and development related fees, business related fees, special service by law enforcement staff, administrative and miscellaneous fee, animal control fees, utility service charges and fees, municipal court fees, repealing conflicting ordinances, providing for penalties, providing for savings, severability, open meetings, and effective date clauses, and providing for related matters.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilmember Musgrave. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilwoman Wallace. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. Moving
Thank you.
on to number 8, consideration, discussion, possible action on the discontinuing services for Spectrum Charter and transferring to AT&T Metro Ethernet services. Mr. Field, how's it going?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council. What you have before you is an agenda item summary form that is similar to one that we put before you before that you approved. It was to get away from our current internet provider, which is Spectrum Charter, because of bad performance on their part. We've already talked with the mayor, or I'm sorry, with the counselors about it, legal, and they've understood our problem and weren't able to get them to step forward any better. So what we are looking for is permission to move forward with that termination of their services and move over to AT&T's Metro Ethernet, which is a fiber-based, much cheaper solution. It'll save us in the neighborhood of about $5,000 a month over what Charter's been charging us. They will have termination fees as we terminate those circuits of theirs, and that will total about $56,000, which has already been put into IT's budget to pay. So we're moving forward with this with your blessing.
Questions? We're moving out of their fiber to AT&T's fiber. Are we going into a is it neutral change or faster speeds or anything?
We don't have to buy anything else. They're providing that as the service. It is a managed network service.
Okay.
They will provide the firewall, the fiber, and the routers and switches that are needed for it.
Okay.
They're currently working on public works installation. They've had some hangups with that because of the building design that down there that we have to go in through the SCADA system and so on and so forth.
Okay.
And there'll be no change in the budget?
It'll be less hit to my budget. Yeah, I currently pay around $8,000 a month for internet services. That'll go down to the neighborhood of $5,000 to $4,000 a month, depending on how much bandwidth we buy. That's the other thing with AT&T's broadband solution. They can give us twice what we're getting now for about the same money as what we're being charged from Spectrum. It's a much more robust and stable solution too. Metro Ethernet is really big for places like Texas Health and Human Services, big organizations where they have to deliver a lot of data all over the state.
Okay. Other questions?
Will this have any impact on our services for residents and stuff while you guys are while we're doing this switchover?
It won't affect our services at all because we'll do it after hours and in a timely manner where no one will be working anyway unless we have a snowmageddon, you know.
So we would have to re-log all of our devices, or?
No, sir.
Okay.
It will be completely transparent to the user, to us.
Other questions? I entertain questions or a motion.
Mayor Council, I'd like to approve the continuation of month-to-month services. Wait, no, cancellation? Okay, because it says continuation over here. It is continuation? Okay, the continuation of the month-to-month services with Spectrum Charter and authorize the disconnection of internet in an amount not to exceed $56,000.
We have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilman Moreno. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Item number 9, consideration, discussion, and possible action on the Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation grant agreement. So, I know Health Committee has been having some conversations and a meeting regarding this, and it came before us once before, and we approved the, we agreed to do the letter of support, and Black Men's Health Clinic did receive the grant. They submitted the grant and they did receive the award of $100,000, as noted there in the summary. And so listed in our packet are those, the goals, interventions, and then some next steps for the next few months, phase 3, all the way down to phase 3 and so forth. I will pass the mic to Health Committee. You have anything to add or?
So, Council and Mayor, I have had a chance to talk over much of this with the city manager, and I did invite former Mayor Larry Wallace, who is on the team with the Black Men's Health Clinic, to come up today and just give us a little bit more information to the council.
What's going on, Mayor and Council?
Good evening, sir.
Good evening, sir.
Larry Wallace.
Long time.
Yeah. It's past my bedtime, y'all. Larry Wallace Jr. with the Black Men's Health Clinic, and here to answer any questions that you all may have regarding this implementation grant from the Bristol Myers Briggs. It's 18-month implementation, starting as soon as we get the funds, which should hopefully start sometime by mid-November. Additional training from them regarding some of the due outs, reporting criteria, and so forth. But initially, the whole intent is, even though the Black Men's Health Clinic target population is men of color, particularly Black men, the overall goal and focus is if we're able to improve the perception and utilization of health services by the most disparate population, that increases utilization across the board for all populations. And even though it's men of color, their immediate families, and those with extenuating circumstances. This particular grant that we're looking at is more robust than what we're just currently doing at our clinic, and with partnerships like Community Care, Lone Star Circle Care. This would actually be looking at supporting a health office or a department actually doing a full-scale assessment, coming up with ways to actually identify what is the current health state of the community. Back in 2018, when the health committee was originally created, there was that effort to try to figure out exactly what were the resources, services, programs that were provided by all the health entities here within the city of Manor. That is usually done by Central Health or an entity like that. And this is a way to be able to get those resources to the table and to bring all those other players to the table to actually provide the data and information that was not feasibly done back in 2018 and still not till today. Then we saw back in COVID, we saw how, unfortunately, having to over-rely on City of Austin or even Travis County that are not majority minority cities, that leaves communities like this to defend for itself. And so in this aspect, how can the city of Manor become more knowledgeable in its current population, growing population, what specialty services are going to start to be needed, what type of modular building processes as you're bringing in health clinics, hopefully trying to articulate for a regional hospital. How can the city of Manor be more in control of what's coming here health-wise for the most disparate population, which is people of color, as the main city out of Travis County that is a majority population.
Thanks, sir. Any questions or comments?
Sorry. I'm looking at the phases. So I see where some of them show mobile and contracts with others, but do you plan on in the future establishing a building?
So this would be an actual collaboration with the city. The goal here is, instead of doing it independently, us coming in and doing the assessment, getting the data, which can go down a whole different gauntlet of, now you're talking about consulting and do we share the data, do we create our own thing, and so forth, and you're just still independent as it is right now. It's more in this aspect of saying, hey, we rather help build the resource internal to the city. We're also willing to put in a split cost to kind of help fund the portion of operations, so you don't have to fund it 100%, especially if y'all still want to keep the collaboration even past the implementation process. This will become a line of effort for the Black Men's Health Clinic. To similar correlation would be the airport for the city of Austin. The airport belongs to the city of Austin as a department, but it's contracted out for work, right?
Thank you.
Questions, comments?
I have,
Questions? Oh, go ahead.
I have one question, and it's probably a silly one. What's the age requirement for men? Does it? does it matter, or does it have an age requirement? Since I see it kind of goes down into some of those health disparities that can affect young men.
Hmm.
And so I was just wondering.
Yeah, so because this is actually focusing on create a health department, it's more think of it like a miniature Austin Public Health, right? How do you have an entity like that that knows what the health rates are, and then council can then be able to, that's where the question is, to create an ordinance for a health department, create a funding line for it, so then you can be able to establish health related programs to support the community. So that would be up to council in collaboration with us of what services and programs does BMAC nationally enable that we're already being funded to do, which would help offset some aspects. How is it already and currently partnering with other agencies and entities here and bringing others here? And then where the gap still at that city council and the funding there, plus the funding that we may be getting from other grants and so forth, be able to support not just men of color, but again, immediate families, youth, ladies, transgender, LGBTQ, and so forth, right?
Thank you.
Council, I think the question for us is, utilizing our committee structure, and like I said, entities like Black Men Health is just the direction we're more likely going to end up trending going forward. So I think being able to, use our, like we talked about earlier, being committed to show our citizens we're willing to go above and beyond. We just need to make sure we have, if there's going to be funding requirements from the city. I think the committee would like to know probably more so what would that commitment be, so when the committees are meeting, we can come back with a dollar amount and be able to commit or get the support of the council to support those initiatives beyond a grant period. If it's during the grant period, what is that dollar amount commit space? Things that we don't necessarily have for housing an individual, but I think you can do some screening, or you can do some things to where we can use some of our space to do that. But I think the question for the council is, what will our costs be? And then how can we, as a group collectively agree to that if it's the information we want to have those results presented to our citizens? Because if they don't show up, how can we say we need X amount of dollars for our program? So the goal for us is to work with Black Men Health to do the survey, let them bring the data back to us,
Yeah.
and then be able to require a set of dollar amount to be. It's going to be a requirement of some sort, and then we can look at the budget and figure out where we want to land on that budget to make sure we fund an initiative that can lead to more money. Just like we talked about the infrastructure, once we invest in it, then we know more will come. And it'd be the same thing with this. They were able to secure a grant because of our support. Now we just want to make sure we can be in a position to get more resources, but also shine more light on what we're trying to do as a community to have a great avenue to bring people to.
I do have to make a point of clarity. The funds were coming. We selected to want to utilize the funds for the city of Manor.
Right.
So.
So again, I think the health committee would be in a good position to have more, follow-up conversations. So if there's going to be a commitment beyond what they're having to leverage, that give us an opportunity to figure out how to commit and then make sure the results that was expected can be presented, and then we can meet the expectation that the council would have for those monies committed.
I think that, Aaron and I, the health committee, needs to have another meeting and get some more information and present it back to the council.
That good?
Yeah, we're going to be moving forward. So I think it's just how much involvement the city wants to be able to have in this effort. And as progression goes, how much input y'all want to be able to have in it. The BMAC is the intent. I'll be honest, out of the 13 staff members we have, 50% live here in the city of Manor. So it's intentional of what we're going for. Bristol Myers-Briggs, they wanted to focus in on people of color. So it was a great match.
So from the staff recommendation, what I'm hearing is that city staff and health committee are going to figure out the partnership and bring back whatever they need to bring back to us to approve going forward. That's what the recommendation is. All right, so we'll take either more questions or a motion.
Mayor, council, I'd like to direct city staff to work with the health committee and Black Men's Health Clinic in establishing a partnership to utilize the Bristol Myers Squibb Foundation grant funds for the City of Maynard health initiatives.
I have a motion on the floor by Councilwoman Wallace. Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Councilmember Westbrook. Any questions to the motion? Any questions to the motion? Being none, all in favor? Opposed? Motion passes. All right, City Council will now convene into executive session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code in accordance with the authority contained in Sections 551.071, Section 551.072, Texas Government Code, Sections 1.05, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, to consult with legal counsel to deliberate for the purchase of real property, and Section 551.071, Section 551.087, Texas Government Code, Section 1.05, Texas Disciplinary Rules of Professional Conduct, to consult with legal counsel regarding the Maynard Spring project. City Council will now reconvene to open session pursuant to the provisions of Chapter 551 Texas Government Code and take action, if any, on items discussed in closed executive session. There are no items to discuss. You all, thank you for good meeting. Have a good night.